Welcome to Two Humans Talking, the podcast that talks about what it takes to be healthy and stay healthy in a modern, fast-paced world. I'm your host, Tiffany Simms, and if you're new to the show, welcome. And if you're returning, you know that we are all about talking about the stuff that no one talks about when it comes to health. Health has nothing to do with how fast you can run or how much you weigh, but more like how are you able to show up in your day each and every day with energy and a zest for life to do it the best way that you know how, so that when you lay your head on the pillow at the end of the day, you feel like a whole person, not just a fragment and shells who kind of like collected dust around the day. And so we are here today with Coach Danni, and I am really excited to talk about what it's like to get yourself out of the rat race. You know, you feel like you're in this grind and this hustle and you don't really know your way out. It doesn't feel good. You feel like you don't have any options and it almost feels empty and it's exhausting. And so we're going to talk about that today. But before we do, Coach Danni, please share with our besties what makes you sparkle. Who are you? What makes you sparkle? Share. Can you introduce yourself for us?
I sure can. Thank you first for having me here. I'm so excited about having this
You're so welcome.
conversation. So I am Coach Danny D. I am a work with ease coach,
Mm.
and that basically just came from life, like just truly from life. I have a balloon decor business that I've had for some time. And I'd serve corporate clients and I love that business. I got pulled into coaching by a lot of my industry mates that were not like so business oriented because I'm the weird combination of I have like the analytic side and the creative side. So that's me. So I got pulled into coaching in that way. And then as I got deeper into it, I realized like for myself and for others, this situation of like, oh, grind and, sleep when you die. And I was like, I like sleep. I like sleep now.
Live
Um,
while living.
while I'm living, I want to experience that, right? And I reached a point, actually through grief, ironically, that I was like, I don't want to keep living like this. I want to live a different life. My grandmother who raised me passed away, and she was that person that like when she passed, I didn't feel sad for her having not lived her life full out.
Oh.
And, I wanted to experience that as well because she did what she wanted to do. Her mantra was I did it my way, like by Frank Sinatra. That was like one of her favorite songs. So it inspired me to want to do the same thing and make those changes and then spread that to other women. Like, you can do this too. You can change your life, even though it feels heavy. It doesn't have to be. You can actually have joy today and not tomorrow.
I love that so much. Now, are you opposed to working in like hard work in a job, in a career that provides income?
I'm not opposed to working. I think a lot of times people hear work with ease and think that that means no work, right? No, it definitely means that you're going to have to work. You can't build a business or a career. Like, and I'm not one of those people either. Like, those people that are like, everybody quit your job and start a business. It's
It is
not,
not for everyone.
that's not for everybody.
It is not for everyone. It is not the plan. Unless you know to your core that that's the plan, if you're questioning if it's the plan, it's probably not the plan for you.
No, it's not. And it's not like, it's not what it looks like on Instagram. So don't jump in if this is not something that you really want to do. But working with ease is more or less the difference between being busy and being productive. So busy is doing stuff, right? You're doing stuff, but are you getting somewhere? The key component to productivity is efficiency, and people skip over that part. So when you're being productive, you're actually doing less things, but you're getting more done.
Yes.
And most times we're
Feel
living, yeah,
you're you're moving towards the thing that you are working towards.
correct. You're always moving towards a goal. And like even now that I'm in this like this world of work with ease, when I go to like networking events and stuff like that, and I see people and they're like, "Oh my God, you're doing everything. You're," and I'm like, "No."
No,
I correct them quickly. No, I'm not doing everything, but because I'm not doing everything, I'm executing more things.
I love that. And the reason I asked you that question is that so many people think that the goal to like live your life and not wait till you die to sleep is that we just go move to an island and like wake up every day and walk the beach. But like we weren't like, if you're, from my perspective, like if your nervous system is so out of whack, yes, there you need yes, you're going to need a reset moment where you need to decompress and like get your life together. But there comes, even when that happens, there comes a moment where like you want to contribute. You want to strive
Right.
for things. You want a challenge, and that you thought you wanted easy, but in fact you just wanted something that brought you closer to your goals. And
Yes.
it was never about the work, it was how we were going about the work that wasn't right.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. It's focus more on the ease instead of the work part, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to work hard per se, like in the way that we think about it, like if I sacrifice myself the most, I'll get the greatest outcome. That's not at all true. That's like probably the opposite of true. So when you are working with ease, it's just that everything is in alignment,
Yeah.
everything feels good. You know what I'm saying? As it's happening, you're not um I always, joke about like prior to this, you're not walking around yelling at everybody about the random sock that's in the middle of the floor. Like you either gonna pick it up or tell somebody your sock is in the middle of the floor. But you're not so wound.
Over the sock.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just like it's just a different way of being. And I love how you said about your nervous system. It is definitely calming your nervous system. Like I have anxiety, and living this way has been so much better for my anxiety. Like it really takes something big to trigger me now. I may feel it a little bit, and I'm like, "Oh, girl, come on, go sit down," cuz I talk to my emotions that way. So I'm gonna tell her, "Go, girl, go sit down. We got this. We did this before. We got this. It's fine." But prior to that, certain people's number coming across my phone would, get me worked up, or, you know, is that the job calling, or, what do they want? Am I, in trouble? All of those things come from living outside of alignment.
The fear and the anxiety and the fight or flight and the constantly needing to protect yourself from what? I love that, in that so often the women that I work with, they think that it's about like, well, I have to like word vomit all my boundaries. I need to tell people where the line in the sand is. I need to X, Y, and Z. And it's like, actually, as someone who's on the other side, I see those as red flags. Like that
Right.
tells me you're not emotionally regulated and that you're a
Mhm.
risk to having in my social circle. And it's like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like there's a way about going about having those conversations that's different when you do it with ease. Because it's not about fighting and protecting yourself.
Mm-mm.
It's about flowing because you know where you're going and you know that you're on the right board game to get there.
And I think you also start to set a tone.
Mm-hmm.
Like once you start setting those boundaries internally, because the boundaries are for you, not other people. Like I think that that's a big kind of misconception as well. Like, you're like you're just walking around like boundary, like
We're not police officers. It's our job to enforce them. It's our job to hold them.
right. Right. And so it's for you. You need to, figure that out. And a lot of times it's not even the other person. It was never the other person. It was that you did not have that clearly mapped out for yourself, that this is a line in the sand. Typically if you have to enforce it, that person probably does not belong in your space. Like that person.
And or I will say, like, I believe that to be true. And I also believe that sometimes it's an indication that we didn't actually articulate in a way that someone could receive what we were trying to share with them. Because sometimes when we
Yes.
come to that conversation emotionally charged, whatever
Yes.
comes out of our mouth, it can't be received by the other person. So we never
No.
actually had the conversation. And I
Yeah,
think,
like you just expecting them to know kind of thing.
yeah, like, well, we talked about it. It's like, actually, you were emotionally word vomiting at me, and I was in defensive mode. And when
Right.
I'm defensive, I can't hear you because I'm protecting myself. So at the end of the day, we might have talked about it, but we never actually talked about it.
Yeah, I think boundaries sometimes they are clear enough through your actions, right? And then sometimes they need to be spoken, but they never need to be yelled.
Kim, what really brought you to this moment? Like, what was life really like before you had that like epiphany of things have to change?
It was just what I call a life of obligation. So, I had the job, I had the business, I had, husband, my child, caregiver, doing all the things. And then I couldn't just do all the things. I had to be like the best at all of the things, so I had to be like, class mom and, like, I had to be involved in every activity and all of these different things. And it was just like, I don't enjoy half of this stuff.
That
Like,
was my question. I was like, did you enjoy any of those things? Did you actually
no.
do any of it?
Like, I didn't enjoy half of that stuff. I'm like, I don't really care about this. And even like with the like school, like there was another mom and she was like real into it, and I was like, you go for it, because I'm like, I don't care. Like, I really don't like this, but I feel like I'm supposed to do this. Like, I'm supposed to do all these things. I'm supposed to be at everybody's event and like, this your third baby. Like, why can't I just send you a gift card? Why we got to do a gender reveal and a shower and like, why are we doing this? I just want to go home and get in my pajamas. Like, so it was just tiring. And then I still had to, I'm doing everything everybody else wanted me to do, but then I still have the stuff that I'm supposed to do for myself. So now I'm like, up all night, like doing the things I'm supposed to be doing because I was helping this one or helping that one. And I'm like, they in their bed sleeping. And I'm tired now. And then I still gotta go to whatever the event was that I was helping them with. And I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, and then we find ourselves living a life where we resent everyone around us. And you know, at
Yes.
the end of the day, it was our like we did that. They didn't
Yeah,
do that.
because we totally did it. And I think like when I'm working with clients, I think that's the like biggest like, pushback moment. I'm like, do you know that you in charge of your calendar?
Right? And then I don't know about you, but like when I started saying no to things, I was saying no to the things I actually wanted to do because I didn't really know the difference. And I was like, my pendulum had swung so far that like I had
Yes.
boxed myself into another pile of poo.
Right.
And
Yes.
this doesn't
No.
actually feel better.
Right. Because it's just like, no, 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 no. You turn into a 2-year old. Like, your favorite word
No, no,
is
no.
no.
And then it's like,
But
well, why don't I connect with anyone? Why don't I have any friends? Why am I not like going to the baby shower? I actually love that person. I want to celebrate them. Why did I say no to that?
yes,
Ding
yes, it
dong.
does. It gets there too. And so it's like you have to really sit in that alignment. Like, okay, what is it that I want? Because that's like, I think the hardest question. Like, I think we are told so much who we are supposed to be that like, what do I want? Like, when's the last time somebody asked you that question? Like, it's just like, do this, do that. And so sitting in that is hard too. Like, just to like seek out, what do I want? What brings me joy? Like, I'm about to do this like series on like 3 things a day that bring you joy. But I know that if you're at the beginning of that journey, that's going to be tough to come up with 3 things, and it doesn't have to be huge, but you lose touch with that after a while because you have so many responsibilities that we forget that like joy is a part of the process.
Part of it, like if you're not feeling joyful, if you're not having fun, if you don't know how to play and you're not loving it, like you're missing it. And no wonder life feels heavy. The other thing that was stirring in my brain, that was something I had to a conversation that I had with myself when it was like when I was looking at all the things that I was responsible for and that I had outgrown. Like I had fallen in the trap of, well, if I don't do it, who else is going to do it?
Mm,
If I don't do it, then it's gonna
yes.
get and like I can't do that, or someone on my team is gonna have to pick up the slack and they don't have time or space for that. And so I was like giving myself this like unknowingly this like God complex of how important
Mm-hmm.
I was. But the thing that I realized, I was like, oh my God, Tiffany, how selfish of you. There is someone else in this organization that would love the opportunity to
Right.
take on this project, and you're being little Miss Martyr of like it can only be you and you can and like you have to do this, that you're stealing an opportunity that is no longer yours from someone else.
Yes.
And that hit me so hard that it was like, oh my God, I need to go through my calendar and identify everything that's no longer mine, that doesn't bring me joy, that isn't taking me to my next goal that I've outgrown. Because there's a Tiffany who is
Mm-hmm.
chomping at the bit, waiting for this opportunity to open up so that
Yes.
they can grow in that area. And how selfish of me.
Yes. Yes. I love that. And I like us I have a similar take on the same thing. Think about, when you have like a small child and they're learning how to tie their shoes, right? You have to let them do it, or they're going to be like 40 years old with like Velcro shoes on, because that's the only way that they're going to learn, is for you to let them do it. And we feel like nobody else can do it. Like we are like so superb that no one else can fill those shoes. And they may not do it the way we want it done. They may not do it the way we think it should be done, right?
Better than the we did it.
Right. They might have some like brand spanking new
Hard.
idea that we never thought about, but we never gave them the opportunity. But either way, we're depriving them of an opportunity of growth.
Yeah.
And as parents, we know we're not going to be here always. So we teach our children things so that they can be sufficient adults when we're not around. But we don't think about that like outside of that realm. And like that's what we're doing. We're crippling the people around us from having their own opportunities of growth. And we think that we're doing a good deed.
Yeah. Oh, look how amazing I am. And it's like, actually, if I'm robbing someone else from growing into an opportunity, I'm also robbing myself of growing into my next opportunity.
Yes.
And then I wonder why I'm stuck. I'm stuck because
Yes.
I'm doing the same things over and over again. And I haven't learned a new skill. I haven't made a new contact. I haven't showcased myself in this new way. Like, there are people who would absolutely love to be room mother. If it's not you, then why are you doing it?
Right. I had that moment. I was like, "Oh, ma'am, you are really, really committed to this, and I am not."
Right?
You can have it.
We all have our strengths and our weaknesses. What, like, and you know what? On that, don't be the woman who guilt shames another woman because it's not their gift and their passion to be room mom or to run the bake sale or to be the lead of this
Please
event
say
at
it.
work. Like,
Please
don't
say
be
it.
that person. We all have our own strengths and weaknesses. And so, like, why are we not identifying those in each other and like leveraging them?
I think a lot of times it's our own insecurity that makes us do that, and I like I've seen it, in action, and I really, really hate mom guilt. I really, really, really hate it. It's something that I find to be so ugly, because we all are like figuring this stuff out. We all are trying to like figure out how to be the best mom, and how to make sure that we do the best for this kid, even though nobody gave us any instructions. They're like, here's a child. Do you have a car seat? Okay, good day. Like that is the extent of, what you get. And you have to figure a lot of stuff out. And we are all going to do it differently. And there's no reason to make anybody feel guilty about how they do it. And a lot of times the same moms that are sitting up there like, oh, well, I am, the perfect step for, wife type of situation are also struggling. So let's embrace each other as opposed to putting all of this extra guilt on each other. And I think that that's why we also end up with this, like, mentality of being, on all the time and doing all the things because we don't want anybody to think that we're less than or inadequate.
To think about us the way we think about other people.
Right.
So I want to, you're listening right now. Like, bestie, I see you, and I want you to take a moment and really check in with yourself. Are you the woman who is constantly sizing everyone else up, thinking they're not doing enough? And I want you to ask yourself, really, what is that about? Because what I have found with the women I work with, most of the time, the reason we size other people up and we accuse them of not doing enough and not being committed and skating around and not being a team player, it's because we've signed up for things that we didn't actually want to do. And so why are you not miserable too? And so if that's for you, like, don't beat yourself up over it, but like Danny and I have been talking about, like, identify those things and recognize, like, who is the right person for this, and start offloading some of those things that, like, you're doing out of obligation because you thought you were supposed to, and go find the opportunities that, like, light your soul on fire so that you can truly enjoy being in the moment using your gifts.
Yes. Yes. And you will see so much more.
Mm-hmm.
You will accomplish so much more when you are honed in on what your gifts are, when you are honed in on what you actually want. Like, I consider it like a rubrics. Like you have this rubrics of what matters in your life. And you create your life around that. And if it doesn't fit the rubrics, it doesn't fit. And and my rubrics didn't have a prize for class mom. It just didn't. It wasn't important to me in that way. I wanted to be supportive of my child, but that was not on the list. It's on somebody else's list, and that's fine.
I want to
And
be the mom that goes on field trips. I want to be the mom that does the dances. I want to be the mom that just makes sure my kid's on time. Like, whatever that is.
whatever it looks like, right? Whatever it looks like, because at the end of the day, your child is also watching, right? And what I found is my child reflects so much of my current choices, and that makes me smile because he looks at life differently. So he will, he's in college now, but when he was in high school, he would come home between school and his like extracurricular activities, and I'm like, well, what are you doing home? I was tired and I knew if I didn't come take a nap I couldn't make it through the rest of the day. Cool, I'm fine with that. But the old version of me would have been like, no, you need to be at the school, you need to be doing these things. So your kids are watching you, and I think a lot of times because of that, we think that we have to do these like accelerated things because they're watching. They're just watching to see you be a happy whole person.
I love that. What's your take on this concept in the workplace? I feel like we are living in a society where we kind of forget that we signed a contract where we're going to provide a service in exchange for pay, and that we think that we need to, our boss always has to accommodate our needs, and that it's whatever we say goes. um so, like, in the workplace, from your perspective, like, how do you honor the fact that you were hired to do a job while also honoring working on things that are in alignment with what you want out of life?
I think it comes down to so in this phase of my life, I consider myself to be a lot more present. And what I mean by that is I am where I am when I'm there. So I am working when I'm working. I am with my family when I'm with my family. I am with friends when I'm with friends. Of course, there's sometimes crossover that, there's a important call or, something that happens. But I think give the honor to the space that you're in at that time. And that way, I totally agree about the concept of we have an agreement. I give you these many hours and this much output. You give me this much money. And that is our agreement. I think that we have lost boundaries there on both sides. So on one side, they're kind of like, oh, well, I don't have to, X, Y, and Z and, honor my, today I feel purple, so I can't, sometimes we get a little far from just self-care into something a little more extreme. I'm gonna say it like that, extreme. Um, but on the other side, you have employers that like when I was working, my manager like was like, "Oh, did you see the email that I sent you?" And I was like, "Well, it is 8 o'clock on Monday morning, and I just walked in the door. When did you send said email?" And he was like, "I sent it on Saturday." Oh well, I work Monday through Friday. So as soon as I sit down, I'll read your email and I will respond to it, right? So it goes back to boundaries again, like, but you have to be fair in it. I think sometimes we want to look at what's benefits us without thinking about how that plays out otherwise. And then what I find hilarious is as a business owner who works with a lot of other business owners, it's the same complaints that you have of the people that are working for you. That was the type of employee you were when you were an employee.
That mirroring. Yes. It's interesting how perceptions shift when you're in a new role because now you're thinking differently, right? Like,
Right.
there's one thing. So, I coach high school field hockey, and one of the things that I absolutely adore in them is how self aware they are.
Yes.
They advocate for themselves. They will tell you what they need, they will tell you what's going on. They will not do anything they do not want to do. One thing that we're which means that their parents did a really good job of enabling that in them as they were
Yes.
learning their roles within themselves, right? Like that pendulum swing. One thing they don't have is the ability to recognize what's beyond the end of their nose, and I say that with complete love
Mm-hmm.
and not in like a snarky way, but they really do not have a concept of how their actions affect other people, how they fit into a bigger picture, how if they don't come to practice the day before before a game, how that impacts the team as a whole at a game. And so whereas you and I were raised to be overly sensitive and aware
Right.
of how we impact everything, that we didn't know how to advocate for ourselves. And so I'm really excited to see how like the next version when the pendulum finds its way to the beginning, back in the center,
Yes.
I guess, because we
Yes.
went from over here of it always being about everyone else and never about me to running myself ragged and I'm not having a good time, but everyone around me is okay, to like I'm good, but like the people and teams around me, like they can't rely on me. I'm not pulling my weight, but my mental health is amazing. But like, so
Right.
where do we fall in that middle? And I think that will come in that next generation
Yeah.
after them to their children. Because, like and I have both kind of danced around, it's not either or, it's how do we do both?
Right.
And sometimes you need to stay home from because you're sick, and other times it's like, actually, I just need to pop, like, I need some leave. I need
Right.
to take a walk, and then I need to go get my stuff done.
Yeah. Yeah. And even in like our generation, I hear like extreme, one side or the other. You know what I'm saying? Like it, so it is most things I feel like are somewhere in the middle.
And we're not.
And we're like extreme, like we're in a world of like extremes. And it's like the answer is somewhere right down the middle because you do have to be able to be accountable. And I feel like that's the thing that we're missing is like that accountability or um entitlement in a lot of, situations where it's like, I was listening to a couple of different stories this morning where someone got upset. Like one girl asked another girl to give her PTO time because she was having family issues, and the other girl said, "Well, I have a trip coming up as well as like my parents are older, and so sometimes I have to take off and I can't do that." And so then she like basically had her villainized around the office for not doing something that she had no requirement to do. But again, I think it's that perspective and being able to see things for what they are, not for how they serve you.
I made a post the other day, and it was around this idea that as a society, I think we have lost the concept of holding and having standards
Hmm.
and grace. Like
Yes.
but like we are so like give yourself grace that we lower our standards. And I think in reality, it's like, actually, I have a standard. I don't need to lower my standard to give myself grace if I fall short. It's giving myself grace when I fall short and recognizing that I'm human and things happen, and being like, actually, what do I need to do differently next time, without punishment, without guilt, without the things,
Right.
but like, if this is my standard, how did we get here, while also giving myself grace?
Right.
And as a society, I feel like we just lower the standards in order. That's what grace means. It's like, give yourself grace. Don't do anything that overextends you. Don't try too hard. Like, don't have any accountability because it was a whatever. And it's like, I think we're missing the point. No wonder everyone feels lost and disconnected and without purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
And
I
it's okay
think
if
that
you disagree with me. You can
no, no,
share
no,
that.
no, no, no. It's not that. It's just like processing that. I think that grace again, I think it's one of the like the pendulums like shift things. Like I think that there was a time when it was like, this like self-deprecating, like kind of mindset, right? Like if I don't do it and I don't do it perfectly, then it's just trash. Like it was just trash and I'm just a loser and just let's just throw it all away, right? And then it's like that concept of give yourself grace, like everything doesn't have to be perfect. Like you can walking in perfect action. But I think then again, it's like that shift all the way to nothing matters. And that's not, again, back to the middle. Let's get to the middle. Like, I love how in like the fitness world, they talk about like 80/20. And if you can get it right, 80% of the time, don't beat yourself up for the 20, right? But you can't just like never get it right and just be like, I'm just giving myself grace. Like you're not doing it. Like you're not doing the thing. Like just say you don't want to do the thing and let's just like call it that. So I do think that I'm all about having a mindset that is, healthy for you to where you're not your own worst enemy. But I don't think that it is because you've just excluded everything, right? Like that's not the answer. Like I've seen a lot of content around, are you emotionally intelligent or have you isolated yourself to the extent that you just don't deal with any triggers anymore, right? That's two
Ooh.
that's two different things.
Ooh. Oh my God. I love that question. I have so much to say on that topic. Like, that is brilliant.
That's two,
What
but it's two
concept to
different
think
things.
about.
And
Mm.
that's where we are. So it's like, I think my grandmother used to say this all the time. They're weaker and they're wiser. Like it's, in the Bible, they're weaker and they're wiser. And she would always say that, like referring to each new generation. And I never understood that until becoming an adult. And I get it. Like, you know, these kids are brilliant. But when it comes to, um, like emotional toughness and things like that, not so much, because in a lot of cases, it's not that they have been given the tools for emotional intelligence, it's that they have been isolated from anything that makes them feel bad.
Oh my God. Yeah. And I think we currently, like, if it makes us uncomfortable, it must be bad.
Yeah,
But yet we say things, stupid things like diamonds are made under pressure. But like, what does that actually mean in real life? And I'm with you because I think EQ, having emotional intelligence, is learning how to sit in the discomfort and figure out what your next move is. Not
yeah,
make it go away, not trying to change the circumstance, but like, why is this making me uncomfortable? What do I actually want to do about it? Is there a skill that I need, or do I need to remove myself and put myself someplace else? Like, I don't think we have those decision making skills anymore. We
no,
don't teach people how to process it. We just teach how to like vomit and project and tell people, rather than having dialogues and conversations, because not all discomfort is bad.
no. And that's the thing, is like that discernment, right? Because we were either taught to tough it out and take it all, right? Or avoid it all.
Yeah.
And
But that's
yes,
that pendulum. Like, that's not, we can't live in the
we
extremes.
can't live in the extreme. It's always somewhere in the middle. And the reality is your growth is in discomfort.
Yeah.
You
And
have to work through it. And that's why a lot of people, earlier used the term stuck. That's why a lot of people are stuck. And that's why, sometimes we'll say, well, why do I keep reliving the same situation? Because you keep going around it, and you have to work through it. And when you work through it, you figure out the parts that belong and the parts that don't belong, right? You figure out things about yourself. You figure out, that's where resilience is built in those moments again. And then you start to be able to tell the difference between the discomforts, because there's some discomforts that you're not going to get me to go back to, for $1 million. They're just some discomforts that I'm like, nope, that is
yeah.
not a space for me, that is not healthy for me. But there are other discomforts that is just like, that's just challenging you, and you have to rise
That's
to the occasion.
something I've never done before. I want to pause on that for a second, because the devil's advocate in my brain as we were talking was like, no, we need to pause, because I want to make sure that you heard what Danny and I were saying. What you thought you heard may not actually be what we said. There's a bestie right now who heard I gotta sit in the hard and accept crap. That's what they're telling me. That's not what we're telling you. Telling you to pause and observe and make a decision about what is causing the discomfort, and if it's something that is one of those things we work through or we remove ourselves from. Because someone treating you like crap, beating you, verbally abusing you, like, those kinds of things are intolerable, right? And we remove ourselves from those. But there's other discomfort, like getting asked to do something at work that you didn't really want to do, or that you might not be equipped to do yet, and is stretching you in ways that you weren't prepared for. And so then it's the moment of, okay, I'm uncomfortable because I'm being stretched. I'm uncomfortable because I'm learning and practicing things I've never actually done before. And then it's a discernment of, okay, is this actually something and a skill that I want to acquire because it'll help me get to where I'm growing? Or is this a detour and I don't actually need to self sacrifice in this way, and it's not the right opportunity for me? And if I say no to this, and this is one of those like lines in the sand for like, this is the qualification, like your employment, well, is this still the place that I want to work? Because it's not the boss's or the employer's job to bend. It's for us to be mutually, it has to be mutually beneficial for everyone. I can't always just get everything that I want and not do anything that I don't. Like, that's not mutually beneficial. And so what Danny and I are really saying to you is that pause, observe and then discern what's really going on so you can decide where you're stepping in, and is this I was supposed to, or because it's actually helping me get where I'm going. Is there
Yeah.
anything that you want to reshape in that or add to?
What I want to add to that is just the importance of self-reflection
Mhm.
and the importance of really sitting and being honest with yourself. Because when we are fearful, because fear is usually the reason why we make those decisions incorrectly, right? When we are fearful, we can rationalize our retreat. So we can say, yeah, this is not for me because, and we can come up with a really cute reason that sounds good on the surface, but deep down in our spirit, we know that that's not the case. It's just blocking us because it's making us uncomfortable because we think we can't push past this. We think we can't do this thing. And so we say, something that makes us feel good about that. So that's why self-reflection is so important. So you can have those honest conversations with yourself. And, I reached a point where I was just like, okay, if when I have that honest conversation, I know that the only reason that I'm not doing this is fear, then I have to do it.
Yeah, and I think that's a full circle moment to take us right back to the beginning where we started, which is what do you actually want for yourself in your life? Like you
Right.
got to know where you're going.
Right.
Otherwise, it's like sitting, putting your car on some tracks that just spin wheels, but you're never actually moving.
Right.
You're spinning tires. And so, like, where are you going? Oh my God, Danny, this is so, so good. I've loved this conversation. I think it was like for me, so reflective, and just like being able to like see all the growth and the challenges and the places that I thought, like the places I've been in, the identities and core beliefs that I adapted along the way and how they've morphed and shifted and where I'm at now is like so, so good for my brain. And I think we just had such an open conversation for our bestie to really explore for herself where she's at, because she doesn't have to agree with either of us. The
Mm-mm.
gift of this conversation is like taking it as true food for thought to learn, what do I actually believe to be true from this conversation? What parts do I agree with? Which parts don't I agree with? Why do I feel that way? Who am I as a person? And so, as we're wrapping up for today, Danny, is there anything that you wanted to share that we didn't talk about, or any final words of wisdom you want to leave our bestie with?
Well, I love how you just said, like, about whether or not you agree or disagree. Pay attention to how you respond because your body will tell on you. Because sometimes something will just, unnerve you. And it may be because you disagree. And that's great because at least you have started thinking about formulating your own thoughts of where you're going. It may be because it struck a nerve. It might have struck, I've had those moments where I'm just like, who asked you? Like, who asked you that? But it strikes a nerve and you start to really explore. So don't take that reaction and run from it. Actually sit in it, actually think through it, actually just feel the feelings, because sometimes we don't want to feel, right? Feel the feelings. I did this exercise and I invite all of the besties to do this exercise. I know y'all probably heard of brain dumps before. It was an emotional dump, and you just sit there for 15 minutes and write down all of the emotional thoughts that you have. No editing, no nothing, and just write them down. And you'll be surprised, like, what comes out, what you've been holding in, because we are, conditioned to kind of hold it together and have this like solid look, but inside we got all kind of stuff going on that nobody ever sees. So I challenge you to do that, and I challenge you to go back and listen to the episode after you've done it and see, how it resonates with you.
Oh my God, such gold. And the thing that's popping up, because I know I've been there, such a great exercise. And you had said where you're blocked. Sometimes we can be so blocked that we don't have anything. We think we have nothing to share, nothing to write. And so I would encourage you to just doodle on the paper until some things flow out. Like set the timer, recognize that you're practicing doing something new. It's okay to be uncomfortable because I would really hate for you to miss out on this opportunity because Danny is like so spot on this one. And so set the timer and then go be human and share with us what you learned or what came up for you. And so for them to do that, Danny, how do they connect with you outside of this show?
They can connect with me on my website, coachdannid.com, on social media. My business name is Workflow, so it's your workflow on all of the social media outlets, or Danielle Detiege on LinkedIn. I know that's a mouthful, Danielle Detiege. So just look for Coach Danny D and you'll find me.
Cool. And I will have all that in the show notes. Danny, it has been such a gift chatting with you tonight. And with that, that's Two Humans Talking. I'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this episode as inspiring and actionable as I did. If you're ready to stop just surviving and start living a life where your health, your relationships, and your career work together without the burnout, then it's time that you join the Modern Women's Society. Inside, I'll walk you through my life GPS system, a proven blueprint to help you have it all while thriving. You'll gain tools, coaching, and the kind of clarity that brings big dreams to life without the stress, overwhelm, guilt, and shame that the modern woman is used to. We're going to create a life where you feel energized and excited to wake up every day and fulfilled when you put your head on the pillow. Click the link below to learn more and join countless other women who are redefining success on their terms. Because the life you've dreamed about is closer than you think. I'll see you on the inside.